So it might be a little shorter, but we're going to start with Rebecca. So Rebecca means to tie or to bind, and we are in Genesis chapter 24. So it begins with Abraham is old, and the Lord blessed Abraham in all things. So Abraham was favored by God in people and places and events and all of those things. So Abraham asks his oldest servant, which is most likely the one whose son would have been promised everything if he didn't have a son, as we talked about before. And so he had his oldest servant to make a promise with him to go and find his son Isaac a wife. So Isaac was around, actually he was around, I think the scholars say 37 when this happened, around 36 or 37, just by calculating everything in between to see how old he was. And that's actually pretty old to be married at this time. So he tells this servant to go to his home country, to Abraham's home country, to find him a wife instead of where he's currently located, which is in Canaan. So he wanted him to go back to, oh, I can't remember where. It also starts with a C, but I can't remember where he was from. But he told him to go back to his original place of origin before the Lord called him, to find his son Isaac a wife. And the servant said, well, what if the girl won't come? Should I bring Isaac back to the home country? And Abraham was very adamant that Isaac was not to go back to the country that Abraham was at before the Lord called him. And Abraham said, if the woman is not willing to come, then you are relieved of this oath, and it's been fulfilled. But again, as Abraham always does, he trusts God, and he said that he will send his angel before you, before this gentleman that's going to get Isaac a wife. So then the servant took 10 camels and departed with a whole bunch of goods and gold, and he made his way to the city where Abraham was from, which was about 900 miles. The normal route that they would take to get there was about 900 miles from where they were, which on foot could take a few months to get there. So he took the camels to this place, and he ended up at a well in this place here. Again, we're with the wells and the water, how water is renewal and cleansing and the new things. So it's here where this servant prays to God and says, just for confirmation that the woman that comes to the well is the woman that God has chosen for Isaac. So even though Abraham sent the servant to find a wife for Isaac, the servant was deferring to God so that God would find the wife for the servant. So what he said was that the woman that is of God for Isaac would come and share water with him, and then offer his camels water as well. So camels can drink up to 20 gallons of water in one sitting, especially, depending on how much they drank when they were on their journey. So that's quite a bit. And again, he had 10 camels. So that's 200 gallons of water. You figure the pitcher is maybe 2 gallons. So she would have to fill up the pitcher at least 100 times to feed or to water all of these camels. So she would have to be quite a woman to want to do that for this person that she's never met before. So just as soon as he prayed this prayer, this woman comes along. He asks her for a drink. She gives him a drink and says, "Oh, by the way, I'd also like to water your camels." So he he still doesn't even necessarily believe. So he's sitting there and watching her and waiting until this is completed, until he actually believes that God has fulfilled his prayer. So and it says she was very beautiful. Rebecca was very beautiful, and it's just cool that God answers prayers like that. It just reminds me of when I was praying for a husband many years ago, and my prayer every night was, Lord, if you have a husband for me, have him tell me that my hair is like a flock of goats. Which is, it's a strange thing. It's from the Song of Solomon. And sure enough, after dating Jared for a few weeks, the Lord revealed to him, tell her hair is like a flock of goats. He thought it was the strangest thing in the world, but he said it, and then that was my confirmation. So I think God likes things like that. I think that God likes when we challenge him to show us how much he loves us and how much fun he is. And I think that that's something that may have been squashed in a lot of modern churches, is that God's this austere, serious, you better not even, but he's fun. He's a fun God, and we can see that throughout all of the scriptures and things like this, where he's like, all right, I'll have this girl come um, and do this thing that you asked. And she was 13 at the time, so she's a young lady, and she's still pulling up at least 100 pitchers of water for all of these camels. So she does that, and immediately he recognizes that she's a woman of character, that God has chosen for Isaac, and he gives her a nose ring and 2 bracelets. Even before the marriage, before she says yes, before anything, just to show that he trusts that God is who he says he is, and that he's the one that orchestrated this whole thing. And I did the research on the today's cost of those 3 items, and it would be about $14,000 in gold. So it was a pretty hefty amount of gold that he gave this woman prior to even knowing who her family was. So he gave her these things and then asked, who's your father? Where do you come from? And it turns out that her father is Abraham's nephew. So again, back in these times, it was common for there to be marriages between households, and from my research, a lot of them say that's because the corruption of the DNA was not what it is now, where if you have people intermarrying in families, there's usually like birth defects and genetic issues because of the DNA that has been corrupted throughout time. But back in this time, it wasn't as corrupted. So the father is not really mentioned. It's actually the brother. So yeah, so the servant says to Rebecca, take me to, or do you have a place for me and my people to stay in your home? And she says, yes, of course. And she takes him to her brother. And when her brother sees this entourage approaching with all of these camels and probably chests of gold and all different kinds of things, he rushes out to meet him, and his name is Laban, and he rushes out to meet him and sees the bracelets and the nose ring that his sister has, and invites this man to come in, and has a place for his camels. So he comes in and food is prepared for him, and the servant says, I'm not going to eat until we've discussed business. And after that long of a journey, he's probably very hungry, but he's still very focused on what he's there to do. So he doesn't want to eat until he discusses the business. So he says, I'm Abraham's servant, and the Lord has blessed my master greatly. As we remember, Abraham was just by the two kings that he lied to about Sarah. He was given servants and cattle and sheep and goats and gold and all of those things. So Abraham had quite a bit of favor. So the servant tells Rebecca's household that he's there looking for a wife for Isaac, and he tells about the whole thing, how he was sent there instead of with the Canaanites, because Abraham did not want his son to have a Canaanite wife. So he just relays the whole thing. He relays how he prayed the prayer that that the woman that comes would offer water to the camels also. And he said, before I finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebecca coming out with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she went down to the well and drew water, and I said to her, please let me drink. And she made haste and let her pitcher down from her shoulder. Drink, and I will give to the camels also. So I drank, and she gave to the camels also. And then he asked her who she was, and he's relaying this whole story. So Laban and Bethuel, which is Abraham's nephew, is Bethuel, answered, and they confirmed. They said, this thing comes from the Lord. We cannot speak to you either bad or good. And here's Rebecca. Take her and go. So, and then they bring jewelry in, and for the household, clothing. They gave them to Rebecca, and gave some precious things to her brother and her mother. It doesn't say that they gave them to her father. So there's some places that say that, let me see if I can scare this chicken. There's some places that say that her father was maybe not doing well, like some kind of handicap, something, and that's why they're addressing the brother and the mother. So then the following day, the servant's ready to go, has everything ready to go, and the mother and the brother want Rebecca to stay with them for a few more days. And the servant's like, no, we gotta go. And they actually give Rebecca a choice. So it's interesting how she's given a choice. Like, first and foremost, she's given a choice when Abraham was talking to the servant, where if she doesn't want to go, she doesn't have to, which, again, in these times, women generally weren't afforded too much liberty to make decisions for themselves. So the fact that she was given a choice to not go in the first place, and then again she was given a choice whether or not she wanted to stay with her family. Oh, there's my mom. Hi, Mom. We're talking about Rebecca. So the servant just went to go get Rebecca. She was very kind to give him water and all of his camels. Camels can drink up to 20 gallons of water at a time, so she's strong like bull. So the servant is about to take her back to Isaac. And she decides that she does want to go. And so they go. So again, this might take up to 4 months, this journey that they're going on from Canaan, or from, not Canaan, I can't remember where Abraham's from. I'll remember next week. And to take Rebecca back to Isaac. So when they arrive there, well, they give Rebecca a blessing before they leave. They say, "Oh, sister, may you become the mother of thousands and of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them." Which that's probably some kind of a blessing that that she's able to rise above all of the things that would bring her down. So when she gets to the land of Abraham and Isaac, she sees Isaac out in the fields, and he's performing the midday prayer and meditation. So she recognizes that he's a man of God, and immediately jumps down and puts a veil over her face to shield herself from this man, and to show chastity and that she's a virgin. So she runs to Isaac in the field, and Isaac takes her, and that's the first mention of a veiled woman, so that may be the origin of the tradition of the bride having the veil.
Okay, you want me to give my version?
Yes.
Isaac went out to meditate in prayer in the open country, but he really wasn't. He was thinking about his wife. He's dreaming about his wife that was going to come.
He was dreaming about his wife.
He looks up and he sees the camels are coming.
And there she is. Perfect. Yes. Yep.
And she looks up and she sees her husband Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
And she dismounts from the camel.
Yep.
That man walking to meet us, that handsome man.
Right. Yep.
So that's the wedding.
Yes.
No, so that really is just the wedding right there. Is when they both saw each other. Isn't that funny that was the wedding?
Sure. Yeah, and that was it.
They go into the tent. So
yes.
The wedding was just that they saw each other, and it's such a picture of Jesus and us.
Right. Yes, absolutely. There was the immediate heart connection, and that was the wedding ceremony. There was nobody, there was no priest that presided over this thing. So he recognizes this is his wife. She recognizes this is my husband, and he takes her into his mother's tent. And I believe that's also in the Song of Solomon, where it speaks about taking the wife into the mother's house. So, and remembering that Isaac had just lost his mother. Yeah. So it said that Rebecca was a great comfort to Isaac after his mother's death.
And he loved her, it says.
Yes, yeah, and he loved her, which is interesting. I was just listening to something yesterday about Indian marriages, and I believe that it's still a pretty common practice for Indian parents to choose the spouse of their child, and they have some of the the most happy marriages, the most like self-professed happy marriages, because oftentimes families can see just different aspects of character and things that the person themselves might not see, and how marrying for quote unquote love, which is usually lust, can be not good for anybody. So, and that, I mean, it's an important thing in any marriage to have approval from family. So this was, and it's interesting because Abraham wasn't even the person that chose Rebecca. He sent his servant to choose her, but then the servant wasn't even the one that chose either. He put it before God, and God was the one that chose. So just recognizing the difference between man's ways and God's ways, and that God was all over this. And like you said, Jeanette, that this is a picture of our union with Christ, that he's meditating on us and waiting for us to arrive and run to him. So
it is cool though too in Genesis in verse 14 when he says, because the servant, it says he was just when he repeats the story to Laban and those guys. He says, I was just praying in my heart, and I didn't even get a chance to finish what I was asking in my heart, and and Rebecca came.
right.
But the thing is, he was actually in his heart. He was saying to the Lord, you have let me know that you've shown kindness to my master. So he was asking the Lord to show his loving kindness to the master. So before he even could even say it out loud, this is a picture of how the Father is totally in relationship with the Son, and they work together in the Holy Spirit. It's just a picture of the unity of God and how they all work together to bring the wife. It's just such a cool picture.
Well,
really is.
and God's the same today as he was then.
Yeah.
So, and that's that. Like I was saying earlier, he's fun. He wants us to have these kind of interactions with him. He wants us to say, "Hey God, let's do this," and then to have fellowship. That's why he created us, to have fellowship. To
he
have
wants us to see it
a
too,
covenant relationship. Right.
It is such a picture of seeing, like what we were talking about earlier. Yeah. That God wants us to see how he interacts. I even just heard somebody say yesterday, you know what, we should be asking questions of God like, show me 5 things that that Lord, you're working in my life that I haven't seen that you have done.
That's
like,
good.
Show me 5 things that you have done in my life that you've worked with me and I just didn't see it. So this chapter is really such a picture of that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good homework too.
Yeah.
That's good homework.
Just to ask.
Yeah.
What chapter are we in, Heather?
24, Genesis 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was late. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I recorded it so you can watch the video.
Okay.
But yeah, that's okay. So that'll be homework. Ask God 5 things you've been doing in my life that I haven't seen.
Yeah, that I've been.
Okay. That sounds